public speakers.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that, in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware of the clock in the front of the room and the warning light you will see, reminding you that you have 30 seconds left to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Murray Bowden, following will be Jason Anthony.
My name is Murray Bowden. I'll be 89 in June. I'm being treated for dementia. I am making mistakes, and so when I make a mistake, please correct me. Public comment started 30, 40, 50 years ago when the only way to communicate with the board was to stand up here and tell you what was going on. Today, you all know, or you could know, what I'm going to talk about because I sent you an email. So it's time you stopped public comment and changed it to something else. I read every book for today online on Saturday. I made comments on what I was going to talk about. That wasn't possible 40 years ago. So the idea of people standing up here and saying things that relate to one issue, that should go in an email. And the only time I should be up here is to ask a question and get an answer. So my question, Danny, and he knows I'm going to ask it because I sent it to him last week so he could research it and I would get an answer immediately and not, well, we'll look it up for you. This is a major change in the way the MTA does business. It's like a town meeting. You go out there and people ask questions and you answer them. That's the way it should be here now. Public comment is something that's outdated. Danny, do every one of your patrol officers wear a jacket like this when they're on patrol or something? Because New York State troopers refuse to wear it. They're special. You're supposed to know they're troopers. And they got those lights up on the top are so bright, you can't see them. Danny, do all of your people wear jackets like this when on patrol?
Please conclude your remarks.
I'd like an answer.
Just Murray,
You're taking me down, I can't understand.
I'm going to speak very clearly. You're preaching to the choir. Our employees wear reflective gear anytime they're out in the roadway.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jason Anthony.
Good morning, Danny. Good morning, David. Good morning, Neil. And congratulations on being the new chair of the Finance Committee. And good morning, Andrew. And good morning, Norman, Vinny, and the rest of the Bridges and Tunnels Committee. I'm going to start this month with a personal experience on the BNT facility, but in a bus. I was in the 733C, but it was in a slowpoke speed in the Hero Carry Tunnel in the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. Why can the BNT authority have a dedicated bus lane in our bridges and tunnels for buses? Because in other jurisdictions, including Puerto Rico, have a dedicated bus lane for buses. We should have it too. That could speed up the commute for thousands of people that use our buses in New York City Transit every single day, myself included. So we should consider that too in our bridges and tunnels. So I'll see you guys later on in the Joint Commuter Rail.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the public comment.
I want to thank both of the speakers. Always good to see you concerned, and we always look at all your suggestions. Thank you. We hope we can celebrate your 90th birthday right here. Oh, am I on now? Yeah, you're good. Okay. I need a motion to approve the minutes. Is there any questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, no questions, fine. Are there any changes in the B&T committee work plan, Danny?
Yeah, there's no changes to the B&T work plan.
Great.
If it's okay, I'll start with my comments.
Yes, go right ahead. Thank you, Danny.
So good morning and welcome to the February 2022 MTA Bridge and Tunnels Committee meeting. So I want to start off with some good news and some not so good news. So the good news is I want to congratulate the man to my left on being the permanent chair for B&T committee. So thank you. Congratulations, Commissioner Mack, or Chair Mack. And I look forward to continue to work with you as we have been. So thank you. A little sad news. Haida, Commissioner Mahaltis, she's going to be moving on to different committees within the MTA, so she's going to be off the B&T committee. But hopefully we could see her once in a while pop up at the B&T committee. So I just wanted to thank her for her support the last couple of years at this committee. Now to the business. A core component of B&T's mission is to provide financial support to mass transit. As I mentioned last month, our toll revenue surpassed $2 billion for the second time in our history. And I am now pleased to report our agency generated more than $1 billion in 2021 to support mass transit operations and capital programs. There is a committee action item today that distributes the operating surplus to New York City Transit, Long Island Railroad, and Metro North Railroad in conformance with the New York State Public Authorities law. We also have an information item, the 2022 adopted budget, and the financial plan starting on page 70. Marissa Krinis, B&T Finance Liaison, will provide an overview for the committee later in the agenda. I wanted to note that B&T was able to reduce its operating expenses for a second consecutive year, which translated to additional surplus for mass transit. We're able to sustain this during a pandemic-dominated year while seeing close to pre-pandemic volume of traffic and still maintaining a high level of service. So thank you to all the employees and my staff. On a related note, I would also like to thank our frontline TBTA workers and facility-based teams for their response to another significant weather event the last weekend in January, which dropped more than a foot of snow in some areas. In addition to the hard work and reliable consistency of our workforce to keep our facilities safe, with roadways cleared and open to customers, we experienced the fruits of our maintenance department's prep and long-term planning. For example, newly replaced snow trucks and upgraded equipment resulted in substantially fewer vehicles being pulled from service during the snowstorm, which allowed the vehicles to remain on the roadway. I also like to thank the staff for this past weekend. On Friday and Saturday, we saw some significant winds come through the area in excess of 65 miles per hour. And again, our staff was out there on the roadway keeping customers safe as well as each other. As always, I'm proud of our amazing team who gets the job done while continuing to keep our workplace and one another as safe as possible. And Murray, we had our reflective gear on when we were on the roadway, just to let you know. Finally, this month's work plan also includes the B&T's annual customer environment report. This is once a year. We look at and we focus on key customer service areas. The full report starts on page 35 in the committee book, and Charles Passarella, B&T's Vice President of Maintenance and Operations Support, will provide an overview for the committee later in the agenda. That concludes my remarks. If there are no other questions, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Hildebrand for the report on operations. Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, thanks. Danny, we spend most of our time talking about safety and sometimes about revenue. We actually never, I don't know, I've been in this committee 5 years or so, I don't think we've ever talked about cost. And so you mentioned cost that you've been managing. I'd love to just be interested as a business guy to know what you do to cap costs. What were you doing? Were they fixed things? Were they variable cost things? Were they people, non-people? Like just a quickie on what you were doing to manage costs down. Because again, we always think of B&T lovingly as a piggy bank for the MTA. A billion is a great number, but I'd like to hear a bit on the bottom line side. So go ahead.
No, thank you. We actually were thinking the same thing. We broke it down. We looked at the last 3 years, and if you compare, just in the last 3 years, we saved close to about $70 million in operating expenses. So how did we do that? So we look back, and the pandemic obviously helped us a little bit because we focused on mission critical work, but also through our scheduling and looking at how the employees are distributed throughout the authority. And again, COVID forced us to do some things we might not have done as quickly as we have, but then we're seeing those lessons learned as we move forward. And some of the things we'll be able to keep in the outgoing years that we're looking at, and gentlemen and ladies to my right have been looking at it. And some of the things, because of COVID, as we start to see regular business start to come back, may or may not be happening, but it's definitely a combination of looking at our resources, moving our personnel to where they need to be, attrition, and the way we looked at the mission critical work and work that needed to be done rather than work that we wished would be done. It's more that the need versus the want. You're welcome. Anything to add on the right side of the table?
I think, Danny, I think you mentioned it. I mean, that a key point was how we deployed our manpower. We took advantage of night work and off-hour shifts, so I think that was a major contributing factor also.
I'm sorry. And I think for operations, we're still operating. It's 5 years out since cashless tolling came in, but for us, it's in its infancy. So as we develop through that, we're developing better techniques, as President DiCrescenzo said, to manage our personnel, manage our workforce. We're responding to less incidents, because traffic is moving better, less collisions, less crashes, and we're not managing on that toll plaza any longer. So it's a change in mindset over the years, but it's really proving, to me as the VP of Operations, effective as we move forward, and we're proud of the job that we're doing and our teamwork with our maintenance forces and our safety and health groups. Sorry, Commissioner Albert, I didn't mean to step on you there.
I'm wondering if you're looking at possible diversions of vehicles when congestion pricing comes and what crossings they may opt to use or not use and how that will affect the bottom line.
That's part of the environmental assessment that's going on right now with the congestion pricing. You hear kind of shopping for, best route going in. So that's definitely something we're looking at. So with that, Rich.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. The report on operations in this month's committee materials begins on page 14. And even though traffic remained relatively strong in December, this period marked the beginning of the Omicron variant surge, which is reflected in traffic counts at our bridges and tunnels for the month. Paid vehicle traffic in December 2021 was 26 million vehicles. This reflects a decrease of 3.5% or 0.9 million fewer paid crossings than we had in December of 2019. Traffic was 20.6% higher this year than it was last year in December of 2020, during which B&T had 21.6 million vehicles paid to use its crossings. For January 2022, preliminary B&T traffic is 4.8% higher than January of 21, but 13.2% lower than January of 2020, which was one of our final pre-pandemic months. Took me a minute to grasp that also, thinking back. Easy Pass market share remains high at 95% of B&T's total traffic, which is slightly higher than 21, at which when it was at 94.7%, but slightly lower than 2 years ago when it was at 95.5%. Unless there are any questions, this concludes the month's report on operations, and thank you.
Thanks, Rich. I'll now turn it over to Pashko Kamaj, Senior Director, Safety and Health Compliance, will now present a report on safety.
Sorry, I have to take the mask off because I can't see if my glasses fog up. But good morning, Danny. Thank you, and good morning, Commissioners. The December report begins on page 30 and continues to show performance metrics to be generally positive. B&T's current safety performance is slightly better than in a pre-pandemic period of 2 years ago. B&T's safety report highlights include the following. Customer collision rates remained steady over the past 12 months compared to the previous 12 months. B&T's 2021 total collision rate was 3.99 collisions per million vehicles, which is 36% better than in 2019 and 2% better than last year. In 2021, the 2021 collisions with injury rate was 0.67 million collisions with injuries per million vehicles, which is 22% better than 2019 and 4% better than 2020. Employee safety metrics over the last 12 months are as follows. The employee lost time injury rate in December was 5.6 injuries or incidents per 200,000 work hours, reflecting a small decrease compared to 2020 and also 2019. If there are no questions or comments, that concludes our safety report.
Thank you, Pashko. I just want to note that 3.99 per million vehicles rate for 21, we went back about 10 years to see if that was kind of a record, and we didn't see anything that beat that in the last 10 years. And being on the job for 32 years, I know that the further you go back, the more accidents we had. So it's safe to say that that definitely was a record in 21.
I noticed that the Verrazano and the Bronx-Whitestone Bridge seem to have the highest accident rate. Is that per number of vehicles or just the sum of the accidents? And is there something that's predictable that could be done for those two crossings?
It's the facilities itself. And if you look, and when we went back those 10 years just on that number, we looked at specific areas. And the Verrazano and the Whitestone, we actually saw decreases when we had some engineering improvements the last couple of years. So they're usually on the high end, but they're lower than they used to be. So we did address a lot of those situations, getting off on the Bell Parkway to Cross Island Parkway, where you would have congestion and some backups and some rear-end collisions. I think Commissioner Zuckerman mentioned it last meeting about the Whitestone, and that's what we meant. That's what we mentioned, that those delays, sometimes we see the accidents on our property, and there was been some improvements to that. So you hit it right on the head. It's the facilities; those are the two hottest facilities, but a lot less than it used to be.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, are those two facilities also the ones that carry the most truck traffic and truck weights? And how does the truck accident rate compare to the passenger vehicle?
Yeah, the truck rate hasn't changed too much in the last 3 years, even with the pandemic. It's about 7% of our traffic. And you see the RFK usually has a lot more trucks than the other facilities, but you do see a lot of trucks started to shift over from the Throgs Neck to the Whitestone when we were doing the construction on the Throgs Neck. So to your point, more truck traffic. Same thing with the Verrazano. When you see the more truck traffic, it's less visibility, and sometimes you get quicker backups. But as far as the accidents with trucks, there hasn't been any spikes of accidents with trucks.
Basically the same trajectory.
Correct.
It's
Cool.
the same pattern.
Thank you. Very good questions. Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to Charles Passarella, Vice President of Maintenance and Operations Support for the Customer Environment Report.
Thank you, Danny, and good morning, Commissioners. The key customer service areas for bridges and tunnels are to improve delivery of service and traffic mobility at all facilities, ensure the safety and security of customers crossing our bridges and tunnels, and enhance the customer experience and environment at bridge and tunnel facilities. The Customer Environment Report begins on page 35, and highlights for 2021 include customer travel time. The majority of 2021 travel times have improved or remain unchanged compared to pre-pandemic levels. It should be noted that 2020 travel times may be atypical for comparison purposes due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which impacted traffic volumes during this year. I would now like to share some visual examples of the story behind these statistics. Roadway striping. Roadway striping and other pavement marking entrance enhance the ability of customers to safely and expeditiously cross bridge and tunnels facilities. In 2021, bridge and tunnels striped more than 390,000 linear feet of roadway, which is 342% more than in 2020. To improve the driving experience and overall customer environment at our crossings, B&T repaired 1,100 potholes, which was 23.9% more than 2020, but substantially less when compared to pre-pandemic years when we had nearly triple the amount of potholes. This reduction of potholes can be attributed to improvements in roadway maintenance and materials, as well as major deck replacement projects. Roadway sweeping. Bridge and tunnel maintenance swept 13,000 miles of roadway in 2021, which was 2.1% less than the 13,397 miles swept in 2020. Tunnel washing. Bridge and tunnel maintenance watched 11 million linear feet in 2021, which is a 5.2% increase from 2020. Lighting. In 2021, over 97.6% of bridge and tunnel roadway lights were in service. Bridge and tunnel maintenance continues to upgrade its conventional roadway lighting to high-efficiency LED lighting. As of year-end 2021, B&T has upgraded over 93% of its lighting to LED. Regular storm drain maintenance helps reduce flooding situations during heavy rain events and also reduces corrosion of vital steel bridge components. More than 3,800 storm drains were cleaned in 2021, which was 9.6% less than in 2020. Emergency record response. Bridge and tunnels responded to 7,718 roadway incidents in 2021. The average emergency response time was 7 minutes and 49 seconds. Incidents included disabled vehicles, collisions, and debris in the roadway. And storm preparedness. Bridge and tunnel maintenance responds to all weather events, including snow events, icing conditions, rain events, and most recently, a lot of high wind conditions. If there are no questions, this concludes the customer environment report.
Good report.
I have one question. Hi. Can I ask it?
Yeah, Commissioner. We see you.
Hi, thank you. Good morning. Interesting report. You've done a lot of good stuff. How often do you have to do the tunnel? Do you wash the tunnels? Does every tunnel get washed at least once a year?
So absolutely. As you can see, we put on over 11 million linear feet. So over the winter time and the cold months, we don't wash it daily. As soon as the springtime comes, we do a major spring cleaning, and that goes out throughout the summertime. We'll concentrate on areas such as the ceiling, the lighting, and the railings and so on and so forth. And then fall time, we do a nice cleaning again going into the winter time. So during the winter, we're basically cleaning all year long, but during the winter time, we slow down, but we do take advantage of the nice weather.
It's always great to have the striping where you can really see it, because I've not necessarily on our facilities, but I've been places where striping is gone. How long does it generally last before you have to redo it?
So, like I said, we're in there every night, and we do, I'll use QMT, Queens Midtown Tunnel, for example. If we try to do the South Tube one wall, we get that done. We can wash a tunnel, the entire tunnel, both tubes.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, it's the striping I'm asking about. How long does it generally last before it has to be redone or touched up?
Oh, for the line striping?
Yeah.
That's we refresh that as needed. So every year we'll go out and do a survey at the facilities. So it could last, several years, but depending on traffic and conditions, but every year we do a survey springtime to see what needs refreshing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. The only thing that I might want to bring up is the potholes. How crucial it is due to the fact that there's so many cars with low-profile tires. So everyone that rides the bridges and tunnels, if you see something, say something. You heard that? Thank you.
No, thank you, Charlie. And this all goes to our focus of the customer experience. What is the customer seeing when they're driving over our facilities? So if you have facilities that are taken care of, like Charlie takes care of the facilities, it looks like somebody's watching the store it gives a sense of safety and security to the customer. So thank you, Charlie, for that report. With that, I'll turn it over to Marissa Krinis, who will give us the TBT operating surplus action item and then the adopted budget financial plan information.
Thank you, and good morning. The staff summary begins on page 59 and includes an attachment of resolutions which are summarized as follows. Resolutions to certify and transfer $1 billion in 2021 operating surplus to the MTA and New York City Transit pursuant to Section 1219-A2B of the Public Authorities Law of the State of New York, and resolutions recognizing $94,000 in 2021 TBTA investment income to be transferred to the MTA pursuant to Section 569-C of the Public Authorities Law. And finally, resolutions pursuant to the Public Authorities Law to advance monthly the fiscal year 2022 TBTA surplus to the MTA and New York City Transit in an aggregate amount not to exceed 90% of the estimate of the sum of that month's operations, if available, with the first $2 million going to New York City Transit and the remaining sum split 50% to New York City Transit and 50% to the MTA, less applicable bond service. Your approval is requested.
Can I have a motion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have as an informational item the 2022 adopted budget and financial plan starting on page 74. The plan includes a schedule detailing the monthly allocation of revenues and expenses for the purposes of reporting. Unless there's any questions, this concludes my report.
And Commissioner,
Any questions?
and there are also no procurements this month. So if there are no questions, that concludes the B&T report.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Quick.
Thank you.